Hi, this is Bill Grace. This presentation is an introduction to me and my candidacy to return as Elyria Mayor. As many know, I have an unrelenting desire to help Elyria to be a great city, even better than it's ever been before. Two things to know about a candidate: what they propose to do and their background to help gauge their ability to make good on what they propose to do. Two of us in the race have held the position, the first-term incumbent and me, who held the office for 3 terms. He and I have very relevant records to judge. The other candidates have not held the position, so you'll need to use more speculation and guess how they'll do a job they've never done before. As for my background, the previous slides are major projects of the 12 years that I served as mayor. I single out these 10 items because in the 12 years that I've been out of office, not one thing has been accomplished that would break into that list. Not a single item. To make the comparison even more remarkable, for the past 8 years, the city has had the additional 0.5% income tax, issue 6 available to spend. A significant amount of money that wasn't available when I was in office. I think many people watched my team's accomplishments and assumed that's what mayors do and took us for granted. Now, with the benefit of hindsight, it's easy to see that my time was hugely successful, and the time since I've been out of office has been hugely unsuccessful. That perspective alone should make me the clear choice in this election, but there's more to consider that makes my case even stronger. Because elections are about making a choice between candidates, I'd be remiss if I didn't speak at least a bit about the incumbent mayor and his former safety service director. To help understand the current mayor's lack of effectiveness, I'll remind you of what you already know from reading the newspaper and a couple things you may not. He's known to spend little time in the office, and he's missed more city council meetings in 4 years than his predecessors missed in the past 40 years. His lack of showing up is clearly not conducive to getting the best effort from the city workforce that he leads. When something doesn't go his way, he picks a public fight to score social media points in the attempt to blame others for his own lack of achievement. He's picked fights with city council, university hospitals, and the county commissioners, creating hostilities with important stakeholders he needs to be an effective leader for Elyria. As for Kevin Brubaker, the Democrat nominee for mayor, he's been an assistant safety service director for most of the past 12 years and was Mayor Whitfield's safety service director for 2 years until he left the administration to announce his candidacy to run against his boss. Together, these two men were the top 2 officials running the city of Elyria. From an administration perspective, the burden is on Brubaker to explain why he is any different than Whitfield. Unless and until he does, which I think most people will find hard to believe, there's no rational way to look at these two men as anything other than being one and the same. Which brings us to the day of reckoning that these two have brought on. City operational inefficiencies are widespread, which includes an over-reliance on consultants. They excessively fund the fire department. Whitfield describes the $18.8 million federal COVID windfall grant to the city as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Elyria. Yet his administration's actions don't reflect those words. The reason that nothing of lasting value to Elyria has been accomplished is because the funds have been squandered propping up city operations to hide the mismanagement of recent years. When those funds run out next year, street resurfacing and park maintenance will be reduced, and police cuts will follow, or there'll be another income tax increase. It'll be one or the other. All made worse by not having yet reduced city operations to reflect the loss of income tax revenue from the departure of Bendix to Avon. One of the more obvious signs of Whitfield and Brubaker's mismanagement is in the sanitation department. For the past couple of years, the sanitation fund hasn't paid all its bills. Combined, the city has tapped into issue 6 and federal COVID funds for operational expenses totaling $3 million. They also haven't been able to make payments on a garbage truck that was purchased last year. All of this is leading to a large rate increase or privatization of the department that will result in reduced service and less accountability to the community. The reasons thus far presented alone are sufficient examples of why neither of these two candidates is deserving of your vote. Their lack of achievement and mismanagement make it clear that neither of them is up to the demands required to be Elyria's mayor. What they've done is detrimental to Elyria, and what they plan to do will make things much worse. They've wasted millions of dollars on the fire department. They're preparing to waste many millions more. Worse still, they're spending these excessive funds in ways that require more firefighters, which will make the fire department even more expensive to operate in the future. Excessive spending in the fire department is one of the biggest impediments to Elyria being a thriving city. Let that sink in. Every annual city budget revolves around the demands of the fire department. Not enough money to go around is made to look like something else. Streets, parks, police. But at its core, it's all about the fire department. Because lives are in jeopardy, burning buildings, dead bodies, etc., the fire department gets what it wants. Everything else is sacrificed. All of this begs the question, if city leaders continue what they're doing, what does Elyria's future look like? Well, the income tax rate will increase to 2.75%, providing nothing more than what was provided with 1.75% when I was mayor and restrained the fire department. Elyria's population will continue to get older and poorer as it watches families and companies with means continue to leave because the city has not made the improvements that attract families. Technology advancements result in fire departments needing fewer fire stations and fewer firefighters than in bygone eras. Elyria and Avon are each approximately 21 square miles. Elyria provides fire service with 3 fire stations. Avon provides a perfectly appropriate fire service with 1 fire station, and it's one of the fastest growing cities in Ohio. Families and companies, including those from Elyria, can't build there fast enough. It's this simple. Do we want Elyria to be a thriving city, or do we want Elyria to have an oversized fire department? A choice must be made. We can't have both. Whitfield and Brubaker have made their choice clear, and it's not a thriving Elyria. Whitfield and Brubaker have demonstrated an absolute, unquestioned, and unrestrained obedience to the fire department. They give it whatever it wants and sacrifice all other city needs. This type of behavior led to Issue 6, the need to raise Elyria's income tax 0.5% in 2016. The tax was promoted to fund streets, parks, and police. These departments needed the funds because theirs had been siphoned away by the fire department. Whitfield and Brubaker are planning to build at least 1 additional fire station, along with the millions of dollars annually needed to support it. It will surely lead to another income tax increase. City taxpayers will continue to watch their income taxes increase, have no community benefit to show for it, and watch businesses and families with means continue to leave Elyria. Whitfield and Brubaker are showing us they are willing to sell out Elyria's future to gain the political support of firefighters to win an election. Said more plainly, Whitfield and Brubaker pose a threat to Elyria. There is a different future to choose for Elyria. If re-elected, our administrative priorities will be to reform the fire department so we can repurpose the wasted funds to make improvements that attract families and companies. We'll fix the sanitation department and save the service from being privatized and getting a lesser service. We'll make our streets good everywhere, develop alongside our 2 waterfalls and riverfront in ways that you'll love to enjoy with family and friends. Make strategic community improvements that launches Elyria's new economy. Make the kinds of improvements in downtown so that it regains its standing as the vibrant heart of Elyria. Elyria needs public transportation to be its best. We'll get to work on providing 5 transit routes. All routes will use the downtown Lorain County Transportation Center as the hub. The first transit loop is likely to pay for itself with ridership fees. It will circulate every 30 minutes between downtown Elyria and Hopkins Airport. At the top and bottom of every hour, riders will be able to board a shuttle at both locations and 30 minutes later arrive at the other location. Besides the obvious access to air travel, Hopkins also provides access to GCRTA and all its destinations, including downtown Cleveland. Think of the convenience that will provide when attending professional sporting events. The second transit loop will continuously circulate in downtown Elyria and connect major downtown destinations with major parking areas. The other 3 loops will link Elyria's schools, major neighborhood parks, Cascade Park, Lorain County Community College, and Midway Mall to the downtown. Elyria's next park, as I call it, a prominent way to honor our veterans and give visitors a great first impression of Elyria, is JFK Veterans Memorial Parkway, Route 57. The recent federal transportation budget provides plentiful funding for projects like this. Features will include recreational paths that make Elyria more accessible to pedestrians and bicyclists, shade trees, shelters, and restrooms for comfort, and flags on the light poles to show our patriotism. This new parkway has the potential to be one of Elyria's favorite features. Among our priorities is a 5G fiber optic high-speed internet municipal utility, today's economic development equivalent to the railroad and turnpike. If we wait for the private market to get to us, we'll get an inferior service, we'll be one of the last to get it, and we'll pay more for it. If we as a city take the initiative and own the infrastructure, we can maximize service quality and minimize the cost. This investment has the potential to be Elyria's most valuable economic development tool. Elyria's children, particularly those who are at risk, need all the support we can provide them. For this, one of my highest priorities will be to launch our boys and girls basketball program. Among the goals is to implement a year-round, after-school, evenings, and weekends program. We'll provide a nurturing and character-building environment for all of Elyria's children. The program will promote mentoring, teamwork, responsibility, group study, tutoring, nutritious food, and physical fitness. Cascade Park needs much more attention from city government than it's getting. With the Lorain County Metro Parks, we need to make plans for park expansion and improvements, open the north end to vehicles, expand access to the West Falls, replace the Two Falls Connector Bridge, and rebuild the Two Falls Trail to connect the East Falls to the West Falls and into the main area of the park. When Elyria was in its prime, Cascade Park and downtown were the two most special parts of Elyria. This former pathway connected the two in a vital way that made the sum greater than the parts. Rebuilding this trail will have a transformative effect on all of Elyria. I think it's terrific that the county commissioners acquired Midway Mall, but we should provide assistance. In addition to the main mall area, a much underutilized space is the former Walmart and Office Max area. I believe a better use to Elyria would be to create a high-end residential neighborhood that takes advantage of being next door to the Lorain County Metro Parks. Longtime editor of the Chronicle-Telegram, Andy Young, wrote about me after I was out of office. He had vision, he took on a bloated, overpaid, and underworked fire department at great cost to his popularity, he was remarkably transparent. I'm satisfied to make those words my closing statement. Having vision, having the courage to confront a major problem, being remarkably transparent, those attributes should get a person elected to just about any position in America these days. This election, however, is about much more than who might be better suited for the job than the others. This election is about the fundamental nature of what Elyria will be in 20 or 30 years. This election is about which candidate will lead Elyria toward being a thriving city versus the other candidates who will surely lead Elyria down the current path of being an impoverished city. To understand the gravity of our situation, we need to recognize some hard truths about Elyria that must be addressed. Collectively, Elyria's leaders have merely been managing its decline for decades. Noteworthy improvements over the period have been good for Elyria, but at best they have only served to slow the rate of decline. Even the improvements that I just described can be great for Elyria, but they too will only serve to slow the rate of decline. For decades, including up to today, the improvements being made in Elyria are not sufficient to keep up with what neighboring communities have to offer, nor enough to overcome our overall state of decline. Elyria has a reputation of being impoverished, where illegal drugs are easily available and random crime persists. Crime dominates Elyria's local and regional news coverage. Elyria City School District is rated as one of the worst in Ohio. Elyria's population is getting older and poorer. Families with means are leaving Elyria for neighboring communities. Companies with means are leaving Elyria for neighboring cities. Moen to North Olmsted was the first to do so, then more recently Equity Trust to Westlake, Riddell to North Ridgeville, and Bendix to Avon. The evidence shows that Elyria is in decline. Yet, Elyria city leaders' actions show they are content with merely managing the decline. Elyria leaders boast of modest improvements. The public generally shows contentment with the modest improvements. Fire department spending continues to increase by millions of dollars when it should be decreasing by millions of dollars. Meanwhile, Elyria families and companies continue to leave for neighboring communities because of the lack of meaningful community investment. It wasn't always this way, and it doesn't need to stay this way. Elyria became a powerhouse city after World War II. Elyria made major enduring improvements, and the business growth followed. We've not kept up with those improvements, and it's contributing to our decline. Modest improvements only serve to manage the decline. Bold improvements are what is required. We must launch a new economic era for Elyria by significantly improving the quality of living and working here. We can do it. Here's how we're going to get started. To eliminate the recurring debates as to how the community fundamentally wants its tax dollars allocated, we need voters to adjust our income tax structure to create dedicated funding for police, fire, streets, parks, and the general fund for everything else. And to change our course from community decline toward a prosperous future, we need to boldly launch Elyria's new economy by extending Issue 6 to a 25-year temporary. By extending Issue 6 to 25 years, it will provide Elyria the capacity to take on large, long-term projects that can have the transformative impact that we need. An early priority during the initial planning stage will include acquiring obsolete properties to reduce blight and to facilitate them being put to their most beneficial community use. Targeted areas are in the downtown, along Cleveland Street, parts of Middle Avenue, and the Midway Mall area. We need to build public facilities and provide subsidies to entice commercial facilities to make downtown the vibrant heart of Elyria and our most cherished neighborhood. I offer this list of items to show the scale of what needs to be done and to give the community ideas to help decide what should be pursued. Our walkable, historic downtown, surrounded by the gorgeous natural beauty of the river, 2 waterfalls, and Cascade Park, collectively has the potential to be one of the most enjoyable small downtowns in America. For Elyria to regain its standing as a thriving city, Elyria schools must achieve overall excellence. For this reason, our schools must be among our bold improvements. Our district has a very high rate of at-risk students, which will require extraordinary resources to meet their needs. Schools across the country with similar populations, when provided extraordinary resources, have achieved overall excellence. They're the exception, but it is being accomplished. If Elyria is to regain its standing as a city that families and companies desire to call home, we must be one of those exceptions. Imagine the impact on our neighborhoods if our district achieved the improvements to make it among the top in Ohio. Young families would be rushing into Elyria to have the opportunity to send their children to such schools. They'd fix up and make more current our obsolete houses, and they'd be great neighbors. Imagine the transformative impact this would have on Elyria. This will require all the community's resources that we can bring to bear, and it'll be worthy of our best effort. Our community mission must be to dramatically improve the quality of living and working in Elyria in every way possible. We must provide the kind of wow factor that grabs the positive attention of the region and gets people saying, "Have you seen what's happening in Elyria? You need to check out Elyria." We need to make these our new headlines. This is the only reasonable strategy to bring economic prosperity to Elyria. I know what needs to be done to lead that effort. I'm the only candidate in this race that has shown that I know how to do what needs to be done. This is why I'm running to return as mayor and why I ask for your vote. Together we can do this.